I'm Matt, the etrailer. Today we're going to be talking about our Thule Roof Rack on our 2024 Mercedes-Benz GLE. Now this is honestly going to be probably one of my top picks for a roof rack, since it is going to give you more of a clean look and it's just really easy to work with. So let's check it out. Now what I like about a roof rack is where it's taking up space, because there's a lot of different ways to move cargo. A typical one that you're going to see a lot is going to be on the back of your vehicle with a hitch. Now the downside with the hitch, if you're using a cargo carrier or let's say a trailer behind you, that's going to take up a lot more space, a lot larger of a footprint, as opposed to using the top of your roof like we have right here. And if you have anything longer, like let's say a kayak, you put that up here, it's just the same footprint, maybe a little bit of the space above your vehicle, but in most cases, that's not going to interfere with anything on the road. Now what I like specifically about the Thule one, like I was saying, it's easy to use. So you're going to have easy access to a lot of the points on your roof just by flipping over a tab like we have here, or the installation, which is really just going to involve one bolt that grabs into place. But let's talk about those components a little bit more now. So this is going to be comprised of two components. Up top we're going to have the 53-inch WingBar crossbars. So with that design, it's going to be thicker in the front and thinner in the back. This is going to make it more aerodynamic to help reduce wind noise. Something else that's going to help reduce wind noise is going to be this weather stripping here at the very top. And what this is here for is when you have any T-channel accessories. You can just flip this tab over and push them in via right here to hold it into place. And that's really nice because if you're not using this at any time, it can also serve to protect that area too. Let's say there's a lot of rain or you're parked underneath a tree, any of that grime is going to be prevented from going in there because we have that weather stripping. We're also going to have an additional point where we have this T-channel at the bottom. One side will be exposed and the other side is going to have this ruler on it that you can just slide all the way to the side of it and it'll be covered up. Now that's going to connect to our tower. That tower is going to have a plastic core right here. You can get that swapped out with some metal lock cores for extra security. And like I was saying before, to clamp this down into place, it's just going to require one bolt, which is pretty easy compared to some other options out there. And this is kind of the fit we're getting right now. There's a little bit of a gap here, fairly small, but the main takeaway from this is it does a really good job at holding on here, and it's not going to fall off, or it's going to be less likely to getting damaged compared to some other things out there. Now let's see how it's going to fit up here on your roof. The first thing I want to talk about is going to be our crossbar spread. At this very moment, going from the center of one crossbar to the center of the other, we're going to be at 27.5 inches, but we got a lot more room to play with. Since this is a raised rail roof, you can pretty much put these at any point to work with all different types of accessories. The next thing I want to talk about is the space right underneath your crossbars. This is going to be 3 inches, which is pretty good, because if you have any more bulky clamps, you are going to have space for them. Now since we do have a sunroof up here, if that expands up, it could make contact. So that's another reason to really use these T-channels spots here at the very top of it. And for the amount of space this adds to your roof, that's going to be a little bit under 3 inches from your raised rails. So that's going to be pretty compact and low profile, which is why I think it kind of gives it more of a sleek look. But something to take into account is if you have anything on top of here. So I'd take the total height of your vehicle, your crossbars, and then anything on top of that, then make sure you can make it under a spot, anywhere like a garage. And this is going to have a pretty sturdy weight capacity. What's probably going to be your more limiting factor is going to be the roof itself. But what I'd recommend doing is find what the lowest rated component is and then going from that so you don't damage anything. Now in my opinion, again, it's probably one of my top picks because again, it has a nice look to it, it's simple to use, and it's going to work with a lot of different types of accessories. Now another one that I do like is the Yakima Roof Rack, because what I like about that one is it's going to have this band that wraps completely around that raised rail, kind of gives you a little bit more peace of mind. And it's going to have one continuous channel underneath the crossbar. And what that means for us is we can kind of pair that up with whatever type of crossbar length we want. So if we want more overhang on one side, we can get it. Now the downside to it is the tower is going to be kind of bulky and it's going to be much larger. So it's going to sit up higher and it just isn't going to look as nice as something like this. Now, if you're curious about the installation process, just stay tuned. We'll walk you through it. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we have all our parts. So you're going to notice I have my crossbar. We're going to have the towers that go to it, the end caps, and this torque tool. And I like to have a measuring tape on hand to make sure everything's even. Now you'll notice I'm going to be missing a few parts because I already have one of my crossbars installed, but it's going to be the same process for either one. So what we have to do is flip over our crossbar, and I'm going to remove this end cap right here, press down that tab, pulling it out. We'll have this tower. We're going to have these tabs at the very top of it. Those tabs are going to slide right into this channel here in this orientation. And it's going to stop at the point where we have this inner ruler here. We'll mess with that a little bit later on, so I might just slide that completely out of my way. Make sure you put that end cap back on. And repeat on the other side. We can put it on our roof, but before I do that, I want to make sure this clamp is wide enough. So I have this torque tool here. I can loosen up this bolt with it, or a lot of times you can do it with just your hands. Once you have enough spacing there, you want to make sure it's in the right orientation. So I want to make sure that this thicker side is facing forward and the thinner side is facing behind me. And we're just going to roughly place it up there. It doesn't have to be perfect quite yet. I think right here is going to fit my needs just fine. And now we can get a couple measurements. And those measurements are going to be starting with the overhang. So we're going to just go from the end of the tower to the end of the crossbar. Make sure that's the same on either side. If you need to adjust it, either just tap it or pull it towards you. Either way. Then we want to make sure it's squared off. So you can do that two ways. Get a measurement or find a point that's going to be the same on either side of your roof. I like to use this little tab, this plastic is, to let me know if it's even or not. And then finally, my crossbar spread. So I'm just going to check that real quick. And we want to make sure that that's going to be compatible with anything that we put up there or not. Once we have all that done, we can start by tightening it. And I'm just going to grab my torque tool. The best way I find to do this is just to do it until you have some resistance. Once you have a little resistance, go to the other side, going back and forth until this is all the way tightened down. And you can tell it's tight all the way when you hear a click. You feel a lot of resistance too. There's that click. Then we'll just grab our end cap, put that on into place, and give it a good old shake test. Make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And if it feels good, that'll complete our installation. And of course, if you guys have any other questions, let us know here at eTrailer. And again, I'm Matt, and thanks for watching.